Hello and welcome to this week's Give It to God live call hosted by Alison Larkin. I'm Sarah Hawksworth, Ali's colleague, here to walk you through a bit of housekeeping on how the call will run and what you can expect. Ali will open the call in a few moments and she'll speak on today's theme for 50 to 60 minutes, and then we will open the call for 30 minutes of Q&A. There's two ways you can interact during the Q&A. You can come on the call and speak to Ali directly to ask your question and then receive some one-on-one coaching, or you can just submit your question in text form and Ali will answer it. This call is being recorded and will be posted to Ali's YouTube channel in a few days. But if you'd like to talk directly to Ali without your voice being posted to YouTube, that's not a problem. We can remove it from the recording afterwards. As I said, this recording will be posted on Ali's YouTube channel, which is at Alison Larkin on YouTube. And we recommend you having a pen and paper handy so you can take notes during the call as well. We ask that all communication be posted into the Q&A rather than the chat, just to make sure we don't miss any of your questions, and you can post them anytime during the call. You don't have to wait until the Q&A section. I will now hand over to Ali for today's call.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello and welcome to Give It to God. Okay, as always, we're going to start with spending a few minutes together in silence. So if this is your first time coming to one of my calls, what we will do for the first 5 or 6 minutes is we're just going to sit together with our feet on the ground, or if you're on a sofa or on a bed, just make yourself feel comfortable. You could be cross-legged or have your legs out in front of you, or you could be lying down. Close your eyes and just let your thoughts come and go. Be aware of the energy within your body. Be aware of where you're vibrating at. Are you feeling tense today? Are you feeling relaxed and calm? Are you feeling annoyed or agitation? Any feelings that are present in your energetic system? I just want you to become aware of them while we sit together here in silence. And the purpose of this is there's lots of people in the room, lots of energy, and the one common energy that brings us all together is the highest energy we have on this planet, which is God. And I want us all to just sit here in silence and align with the highest versions of ourselves and bring all that energy together in one huge source, and then see where the call takes us. If you're watching it on catch up on YouTube, you feel free to fast forward for the 4 or 5 minutes that we sat in silence, or just join us along with us and sit in silence yourself on catch up, and just be aware of the thoughts that come in through your mind and the feelings and emotions that come in through your body. So if you could close your eyes, and we'll just go into a few moments of silence. So you can sit with your eyes closed throughout the call, or you can open your eyes. All I want you to do is stay comfortable for the next 60 to 90 minutes. Listen to the stories that I tell. And then if you have any questions that come up in your body while you're sitting listening, maybe some of the things I say might agitate you and that will cause you to want to ask a question. Maybe they might make you feel sad, make you feel afraid, or maybe the things I say might bring peace and joy and calm to your body, and you might want to ask questions or make observations about that. So as Sarah said, the time at the end after 60 minutes will be to ask any questions. We will now start with a prayer of intention for the call and what intentions I would like us to have for our 60 minutes here today or 90 minutes here today, and just asking the highest energy that we all possess inside of us, that we all are, to join us in the room. And further into the call, I'll explain to you my beliefs on how that energy is present with us at all times, but how sometimes we turn away from it and we come out of alignment with it and we face the other way, and that's how we don't feel it inside ourselves. So my intentions for this call, my intentions for all the calls going forward is for everyone that sits in front of me, either on a one-to-one basis or on a call like this, or if I meet them on an aeroplane or in a cafe, is always to remind people in front of me that they carry a spark of God within them, and that the creative energy of God created the universe, the planets, every single being on the planet, every single living thing, every animal, every human, every plant, every fruit, every vegetable was all created by this one creative force. And we carry that creative force within us. So that energy can create all of this wonderful stuff round about us. Then think what we could create in our lives. We are the creators of our own reality. We create our own reality through the words that we use and our perceptions of the world that we live in every day. And at the moment, there's a lot of people creating in pain, and my wish is that they can turn their focus back onto that highest energy and start creating from a place of light and unconditional love and curiosity. My intention for this call is to call God into the room with us. My intention for all time is to call God, the God within me, to the forefront of my being, of my personality, of my person that I bring out into the world, and pour that love out into the world onto everyone that I meet through these calls and through everybody that I meet every day. I ask that for myself and ask it for everyone in the room today. At the start of every week, I meditate on what the theme of the week will be. And this week it's been a bit different. So in previous weeks, this call's only been happening for the past few weeks, and the meditation's been lovely. And that I've been in Southern Europe and a really nice part of the world with beautiful beaches, and I've been going in the sea on the Monday morning or the Tuesday morning and being in the water and meditating in silence and asking God, the God within me, what the theme that I should talk about today is. And last week I travelled to the UK to see my daughters, and the sea here just isn't as warm as in Southern Europe. The weather isn't as good, and the beach where my daughters live is just not as nice. So I couldn't go in the sea. I couldn't. The lovely Airbnb that I've rented doesn't have a bath, so I couldn't even go in the bath and pretend it was the sea to meditate and ask God what the theme should be. So instead of just being walking about the little town and listening to see what comes through my body. And I have heard a whisper for the past couple of days of talking about meeting God in the valleys. And then I had a call with a male client this week, earlier in the week, and I brought that idea to him, that perception to him on the call, where he was worrying about something that was going on in his life at the moment. And I told him that this is where we meet God. We meet God in the valleys. We don't meet him on the mountaintops, we meet him in the valleys. What do I mean by that? Or what does God mean by that when he puts that sentence into my body? My belief is that all that everything belongs everything on this planet that's happening at this moment all belongs. It's all supposed to be happening at this time. Now, all you have to do is switch on the news, which, by the way, I don't. I don't watch the news for this reason, because if you look at the news and you look at everything that's happening in the world, then I can imagine that your first question to that would be, how can that possibly be true? How can it be that everything that's going on in the world right now belongs when there's so much hurt and so much pain in the world and so much tragedy and trauma and fear and anger and a lot going on? I stopped listening to the news and watching the news about a year ago, because the messages coming from my body was asking me to do that. I spent probably about 18 months before that checking the news multiple times throughout the day. It was a habit that I'd got into, and there was never anything good on the news. And I realised that after a period of time that what was happening was it was just keeping my vibrations low, and I couldn't raise my vibrations while I was also looking at something that was in essence low vibrational. Now, what do I mean by that? And if you've got any questions about any of the terms that I use here, please ask them at the Q&A. All emotions vibrate at a frequency that lets us know through the feelings in our body if that feeling is what we would term good or not, right? Does it feel good or does it not feel good? And one thing that I'm looking at my cup of tea and I'm like, I really would like to have a cup of my cup of tea. And I take my mama cup with me everywhere I go. One of the questions that I will ask my clients, if I give them a bit of feedback or perception, that I usually preempt with, this might sting a little, and then I say to them afterwards, if I tell them something that I've observed in their behaviour, and then I say afterwards, how does that make you feel? And there's a common phrase that comes up time and time again. I've really begun to take notice of it recently, is, well, it doesn't feel good, right? And I've started like pointing it out to my clients. That's, you're not telling me how you feel, you're telling me what it doesn't feel. Okay. So another thing is, I'll ask a client how they feel and they'll tell me a thought. How does that make you feel? Well, I feel left out, or I feel like that person doesn't understand me. Now, these are thoughts that are attached to feelings. A feeling is a sensation that you feel in the body, and you feel it in the form of your palms are sweaty, your heart's racing, your tummy is got butterflies, your solar plexus pulses when you're afraid and also when you're excited. And you can also feel like a burning sensation, which is generally associated with shame. And those feelings are in our body as an internal navigation system to show us where we're pointed at, where we're focusing on, what our bodies are constantly sending as messages. And if we can't hear it auditory in our mind as what we perceive as like a sentence or a commandment that we get from an impulse that comes through our system, then we can certainly feel it in sensations. Now, what's happened is in 2026 is that we've got plenty of things that numb those sensations. We've got food that's allowed us to disconnect from those feelings in our bodies. I say this a lot. We've got these guys in our hands that allow us to disconnect from that feeling in our bodies. And as children, we are very, very intelligent, and we created coping mechanisms that allowed us to not feel the less than pleasant feelings that we have. These we can, and I'm a huge fan of words, but I'm also a huge believer that our words create our reality, and that things are not generally good or bad, but our perception of them is. We can have a lot of nuance, and we can understand that some feelings feel better than others, right? Shame, for instance, and joy. Well, joy feels better than shame. It feels more pleasant in the body than what shame does. Now, this is also learned behaviour, because generally if we felt shame in childhood, it was because we were being admonished or chastised or told off by our parents for something that we did, and we were worried that we had, let our parents down or we'd done something wrong. The subconscious fear there is that we're going to be kicked out of the tribe and we're going to be left on our own to try and survive. So this feeling in our body, this warmth, I always experience it as a warm feeling in my solar plexus. It's like a kind of sickly heat. We that did not feel pleasant, especially because of the outside environment of what was also accompanied with it, which generally would have been a change in tone of the voice, the language that went along with it from the parents, a change of the tone of disappointment, anger, fear, sadness that was projected onto us from our parents. We would then feel that feeling in the body, and we would try and push it away. We would think of a way to adapt so that we no longer felt it. So we would find a way to numb ourselves. It's a really, really clever thing to do because in essence it helps us feel better and keeps us feeling, it keeps us alive, okay? Because we are looking for like a better feeling. But what happens over time is we become so good at numbing the feelings that we numbed everything, and that we no longer have access to any of the feelings. So, all right, we can no longer feel fear, anger, sadness, and shame when things happen in our lives because we've got all these numbing techniques and coping mechanisms. But then we also don't feel joy and happiness and proper peace rather than disconnect and apathy. Proper peace, exhilaration, excitement, love. If we disconnect from the lower vibrations, then we also can't feel the higher vibrations. And what that mechanism has done over time is it's caused us to just become completely numb from our instincts and our connection to the highest energy that we hold inside of ourselves, our higher self, source energy, God. My belief is that our bodies are so intelligent and so unbelievably intelligent at getting us to where we need to be in spite of ourselves, in spite of our coping mechanisms, in spite of our um, numbing techniques that we've developed over time, that what it will do is, what our body will do is it will continue to give us more and more, louder and louder signals from the outside world that won't enable us to feel, regardless of what those feelings are. So what would be lovely is if the world could just give us more and more and more joy, right? And that was how we felt. That was how we got back in touch with our feelings again. But what our systems do is they hold on to emotions. We repress the emotions in childhood. We can also carry them down from our ancestors, from our parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, and we hold them all in the energetic system. Imagine for a moment like that this I like to use this analogy with my clients where this is your energetic system, and the emotions are designed to flow. It's energy and motion. They're designed to come up, be seen, be processed, and be let go. Because we grew up in a society where our parents were never taught how to do this, and their parents were never taught how to do it, and their parents were never taught how to do it, we were never encouraged or taught how to feel our emotions, be with our emotions, understand that it's just energy, that it's an indicator, it's a message, it's a signal from the body, and sit with them, be able to sit with the emotions and read the message from the body, and then carry out the action that needs to be carried out, or let the energy flow through our body and process it and let it go. None of us, nobody watching this here, unless you're, 10 and under, which I'm pretty sure you're not sitting watching me on YouTube, we're never encouraged to do that. Like I was never encouraged to just, yeah, cry, let all the tears come out your system, just cry it out, cry it till there's no more tears left. I'll hold you while you're crying because you're allowed to be sad. it's okay to feel sad in this situation. It's okay to feel these big emotions, and I'm just going to sit here and hold you while you feel them. And then when you've cried all the tears out, you'll have released the emotions that were only temporary, and you'll be able to go on with your day. I was never taught that. In fact, I was taught the opposite. The sentence that I heard numerous times throughout my childhood, and I've heard it many times in adulthood as well, is don't cry, don't cry, shh. Even as you know, little babies, like we shh our baby. We're like we're trying to console them because they're crying, and but also as mothers because we don't like the sound of the crying. It hurts us because we're like, right, what's wrong? There's something wrong with the baby. The baby's crying. I need to do something. It's all our intuition and our instincts are turned on. And then when as babies, when we grew into toddlers and we're out in the world and we're trying to set, push the boundaries and see the way of the world, we were conditioned, all of us, into living under the conditions of our family home, and every family home was different. And recently I was talking to someone about this with I might have said this on last week's call, I might need to get cut out, but I'm not sure if I did, that your personalities are so hugely created in the environment that you're brought up in. That I was brought up in a family with 5 kids, so I've got 3 brothers and a sister, and we were all loud and boisterous and told stories and played pranks on each other and sang and danced and performed, and as a result, we've all got quite big personalities. Whereas I've got friends who also grew up in houses with lots of kids, but their house was more reserved, more quiet, more rules and regulations, and they've got a quieter personality and a more introverted personality. I've got a friend that was brought up as an only child who her she when we were growing up, like, she has got a very big personality because she was the only person and only kid in the house, so all the attention was on her. Whereas my older daughter, who was pretty much brought up as an only child until she got her little sister at 16, our house was quite quiet because it was just me and her, so she's got a very introverted personality. And these personalities are conditioned into us in childhood through the process of feelings and emotions. We are told the way to behave by watching the people round about us, by watching our mums and dads and our siblings, and seeing the way that people behave, but the associated feelings that go along with the behaviors. So if you're witnessing your mother in a state of fear, then as little children, we're emotional sponges. Like, we would just be able to feel the feeling of fear without being able to put a label on it and put a story around it. We would have just, as babies, as little kids, we would have just felt the fear in our system. As we grow up, we feel those feelings of fear, and then we project our thoughts onto it. We create a story around the feelings. I'm afraid because. One of the things that I often say to my clients is, you can just say, I'm afraid, and you can stop there, period. I'm afraid, full stop. That's it. The stories that we create round about it, it's just reiterating to ourselves that there's a reason to be afraid, and 99% of the time the stories are either not true, in our perspective, our perception of them, not as bad as what we think they are. And if they are, then, as I said to my younger daughter yesterday, every problem comes with a solution. There's never been a problem created that has not also come with a solution alongside it. We just have to be able to reach the solution, and the way that we reach the solution is by aligning ourselves with the energy that created the problem in the first place, and that energy is God. So, and why would this God that we love and who loves us and who's an all protecting, all providing, benevolent energy, and a lot of religions, a benevolent character, a father type figure that looks after us and created us and loved us, well, then why would that God, why would that same energy create a situation where we would be feeling fear within our systems for learning, for evolution, in order for us to evolve? Because no problem ever arises without a solution. So the God that created the problem also created the solution. The problem was created outside of ourselves because we are animals at heart, and we are hardwired for fear. And we are therefore able to judge danger quite easily. And we are adept at scanning the horizon for fear. Now, what that comes from living outside and being hunters for most of mankind's time on Earth. The way that we live now is relatively new compared to how long we've been on the planet. And before those, scanning the horizons for danger was actually a mechanism to keep us alive. Now we sit in nice warm houses and we're not out on the open field with animals that can kill us. So we are still scanning the horizon for danger, but that danger now has transformed into something else. That danger is receiving an email from your boss at 10 o'clock at night, and it heightens your sense of fight or flight, and you can't get to sleep. It's no longer, a predator coming to the camp to eat you when you go to sleep at night. The feelings in the body, the emotional system, the energetic system is the foundation of everything that we have. It's the foundation of every single thing in our lives. It is our internal navigation system. It is our connection to God. It is our connection to the energy that created us and created everything on the planet. And it is our mechanism for understanding if we are connected to that higher power or if we're not. So, and the amazing thing is if we're not, then the feelings are stronger within the system. Okay, so we can feel fear quicker, and we're more hardwired for fear, and we look more for fear than we do for anything else. That's an amazing evolutionary process that's allowed us to override the fact that we're trying to numb ourselves with all the outside techniques we've got for numbing ourselves. The body's so clever that it still tries to override that it'll always come up with new ways to get us to feel the fear that we need to feel inside of ourselves to understand that we are no longer connected to the source of the higher power. And if we're not connected to the source of the higher power, then we're not on our glorious path. We are not going with the flow of the universe to the place where we're supposed to be, which is pure consciousness, a complete alignment with God, and processing, that's not the word I'm looking for, experiencing everything on the planet as God wants us to, experiencing everything in our lives. There's many people that say that we are God experiencing ourselves, experiencing life in human form. So God is looking out of the eyes of every single one of us and able to experience this planet in 8 billion different ways, and all of the energy source together all makes up the whole. So how does this correlate with meeting God in the valleys? Just 2 seconds, because I've just gone down a rabbit hole again. So I should touch on this, shouldn't I, about the fact that I like to go down rabbit holes and down tangents. And it's so interesting to me because it's something that and I will come back to God in the Valleys, I promise. It's something that I find challenging, as being able to streamline my thoughts into one particular path. And what happens is when I'm talking, I feel all these different sensations through my body, and it creates an impulse in my body, and it creates thoughts and images and visions. And I need to remember and talk about that, and I need to remember and talk about that. And I was talking about it with someone recently, and I'd had different opinions on the call. I'd asked for feedback from different people, and some people were saying, it's hard to know what you're talking about when you go off down on different subjects, and then you try and bring yourself back to where you are, and sometimes I get lost in a loop of what the message actually is. And other people's perception of it is, oh, I love it when you go down the rabbit holes and down tangents, and you're telling a story, and then you tell another story and tell another story, and then you bring yourself back again to the main premise. And then someone said to me, you just say everything that you're supposed to say. How do we know you're supposed to say it? Because that's what you say on the call. So whatever comes out is what's supposed to come out. There are no mistakes. Now, the nuance to that is I'm doing these calls live. I'm doing them real time every week, every Wednesday. I'm doing them live in order to get better at being able to speak coherently about certain subjects, which is why I've got a theme every week and keep myself somewhat streamlined by it. Also, to get better at something that I don't consider myself very good at the moment, but I am getting better at it, and to challenge myself and to push myself outside of my comfort zone because this is not the thing that I'm best at, which would be one-to-one coaching or writing or group coaching in a setting where people ask me questions and I'm able to interact with them. Just talking to camera, I find challenging. Just standing on stage, which is the next level of this, I will find challenging, but the only way to get better at it is to keep doing it. So in these calls, the theme will always be whatever comes through my body. But as I speak for the 60 minutes, whatever comes through my body as I speak is all tied into the theme in some way. Because how do I know that? Because the theme is presented to me through my body and then all of the information comes in while I'm speaking. My job here is to always tie it back and tie it back and tie it back in a way that's coherent for everybody here listening live and everybody that will watch it on catch up. I just ask that you'd stay here with me while I get better at that coherence and that sewing it all together. So the theme of we meet God in the valleys, the reason why I've spent quite some time talking about feelings and emotions and sensations and how we numb feelings in childhood and how our wonderful, all wise, amazing, intelligent bodies then give us ways to get back in touch with those feelings is because that is where we meet God. We meet God in the valleys where it does not feel good. So if you imagine that the mountain tops are where everything is wonderful and you've climbed the mountain and the sun is shining and you can see the gorgeous view from the top and you can see all over the land and you can see for miles and miles around. Imagine that from a symbolic point of view. You've climbed a mountain, you've faced challenges, you've overcome the challenges, you've strengthened your muscles as you walk up, you've shown to yourself and to the people around you on the mountains that you have endurance, that you have strength, that you have courage, and you get to the top of this symbolic mountain and you can see your whole life spread out in front of you and you can see all of the pitfalls on the path, all of the parts of the path up the mountain that were difficult, but they were necessary to get to the top. When you're looking from a heightened place, you can see it all. That comes after we meet God. That comes when we're in alignment with God. When we get to the mountaintop, we are God. Now, I'm going to give you a nuance to this and a caveat as well. Also, in the valleys, we are God, and this is the thing I touched on last week. I'm not even going to look for it. I'll just reference it. I'll just say it in a way that you can understand what I mean, but I know that I'll get it wrong. It's a passage from the Old Testament, Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, from the Old Testament, and it's God. It's the basis of it is God creates darkness and creates light. God creates good and creates evil. So God is in the valleys and God is on the mountain tops. Okay, so this is the nuance that I need you to understand here. We meet God in the valleys, we are God on the mountain tops. So God is there both times. We meet him in the valleys and we are him on the mountain tops. I've said this before in many other I went to the cinema yesterday to see a movie, and it's in my mind, in the back of my mind, this movie for the past day. So I almost said I've said this on other movies. I've said this on other videos and on other calls where I refer to God as he and him, just because that's what I feel most comfortable doing. You can refer to God. The most accurate description would be he and she, him and her, which is it's it's every gender and no gender. It's everything and nothing. It's an energy source. In order to just speak about God, then I use the terms him and he. So we meet him in the valleys and we are him on the mountaintops. What do I mean by that? And if you're watching this live and you've got any questions by you're wondering what I mean by that, then please formulate questions just now and you can ask them at the end of this segment. What do I mean by we meet God in the valleys and we are him on the mountaintops? We meet God in the darkness, in the shadow, when things are difficult, when we are feeling the lower vibration emotions, when we are feeling fear, when we are feeling sadness, when we are feeling anger, when we are feeling shame. That is our opportunity to meet God, because that's where true alchemy takes place, where all transformation takes place. And what is transformation? Well, it is the creation of something new. And what is God? God is the creative energy. So, how do we use meeting God in the valleys to get us to the mountaintops? The first thing is an awareness of how we feel in our bodies, which, as I said, our bodies are very wise and very powerful. And if we continue to ignore and ignore and ignore and get stronger numbing techniques, then what happens is the outside world, things outside of yourself, and by the way, when I said that, I don't know if you heard cars beeping outside, they start to show us, right? Things will happen outside of yourself that will show you something that because you can't feel inside of yourself. So you will see repeated patterns of behavior and people outside of yourself, repeated situations, repeated scenarios in your life, repeated patterns. One of my colleagues, one of my clients used to say, if you meet 10 arseholes a day, you're the arsehole. He also said 10 C words a day, you're the C word. Which, by the way, I have no problem saying on camera, but I think YouTube would have a problem with me saying it. And it's true. It's a very, very true statement. If you meet 10 arseholes a day, you're the arsehole. You have to start wondering why you keep meeting people that are, in your words, an arsehole, or in your words, not nice to meet, let's say. So I'll tell you a situation that I was in last week where I was flying to the UK and I was tired. I had been traveling for quite some time. I had heavy bags with me. Things had been going well. I woke up that morning and I journaled, and I wrote in my journal. I'd start my journaling every morning with "Dear God," and then I talk about how the day's going to go. And I say today is perfect, today unfolds perfectly. You and I are creating this day together. I'm excited to see what you're going to put on my path to unfold in front of me for any learnings that I still have. So I do a variation of that every morning. And so obviously God was listening and decided to put something on my path to show me something that was inside of me that, I needed to see. So I was traveling that morning, and I said to my friend later on that day, the traveling gods were watching me and they were on my side and everything was going great. And I was driving along the motorway with all my bags in the car, and I was going, this is easy, my life is easy, I can handle this is easy, my life is easy, I can handle this. And I was repeating this mantra over and over to myself. And I got to the airport and it was really, really busy. And I was still repeating the same mantra, it's fine, it's great that it's busy. That means there's more representatives of God here round about me. I get to look at all these people and understand that they are also God, and I get to see God in many, many different forms. And I was repeating these mantras to myself as I was walking along, checking in my bags, going through passport control and everything. And then we got to the part where you put your hand luggage through, and it was like everything was going really, really smoothly, and then all of a sudden it stalled somewhat. And by this point it was really hot, and I'd been carrying the bag on my back for quite some time, and it wasn't heavy because I purposely made sure it wasn't heavy, but it was starting to become like a bit cumbersome. Like, it doesn't matter how heavy or light it is, if you're holding it for quite some time then it becomes challenging. and it was too hot and I was thirsty and I was tired and I was a bit hungry and I was waiting in this queue. So the queue was almost at a standstill. In fact, it was at a standstill for quite some time. And then the first thing that kind of nudged me a bit to show me that my own vibrations that I was carrying inside, that I was starting to become a bit more agitated by it, was the woman behind me tapped me on the shoulder and like kind of roughly told me to put my stuff in one of the the little trays that you put through the machine. And she was a bit agitated. And I was that so that's the first indication, right? I have got some agitation in my system now from standing here in the heat for so long with this bag. How do I know that? Because there's a woman beside me and she is literally showing me what's inside of me. She like kind of roughly tapped me on the shoulder and was like, you can take the tray. And she turns around and she starts complaining to her husband, I don't understand why everybody's just standing here. Why are they not taking the trays? And she was complaining. And I was watching her talking, and at this point not in my body enough to remember that she's also me personified outside of myself, that everything that I'm carrying inside, that she's shown me in the outside world, which is an amazing thing that we have. And I wasn't annoyed, I was more a bit bewildered and like, found it quite funny because she was really, really annoyed at me and I hadn't done anything wrong. And so I was like, okay, and anyway, she gives me a tray and I put my bag into the tray and we're still standing, still standing. And there's two machines for you to walk through, and the one on the left wasn't working, so everybody was having to go into the one on the right. And what was happening was people were coming from two different sides and going into one queue. And there didn't seem to be a system for people doing that. It wasn't it wasn't going in smoothly. It was like people were kind of looking at each other, nobody really knew what to do, nobody was taking any ownership of how the system was going to work. So I was standing in this like kind of bottleneck part for quite some time, and the girl had asked me to take my laptop out the bag and put it into a separate tray. So there was a tray with my laptop, my phone, and something else. I think my bag with my purse in it was in one tray, and then my blue bag I had on my back was in another tray. And the laptop went through first and it was taken through and it was quite far away. And I had that moment where you get a little bit of panic. Maybe this doesn't happen to you, but I was brought up in the mean streets of Greenock where, you know, the things would go missing off the back of a lorry and things like that. So, if things are out of your sight, then there's a chance that you might not get them back again. And I was a bit like, oh, my laptop and my phone and my purse are all over the other side of the barrier, and I'm not near them. And I had this thought of someone walking by and picking them up. And by the way, that doesn't come from nowhere. Years ago, years and years ago, I was on holiday in Ibiza and I saw someone stealing someone else's suitcase and thinking it was funny and taking someone else's suitcase. So I know that these things can happen in airports. Um, and so I was aware that I was agitated because I was my all my possessions were on one side of the machine and I was or one side of the barrier and I was on another. And we're getting closer and closer to the machine. And of course, what happens when I walk through is the alarms start going off. It starts beep, beep, beeping. So there's my second nudge from the universe. The first one was the woman tapping me on the shoulder quite aggressively, and then the second one was the alarm going off, right? So everything round about me is like, you're not listening, you're not listening. And I walked through and this woman on the other side, she was also quite aggressive and she was like, stand there. And I was like, okay. And I understand that, it's hot, this is her job, it's there's loads and loads of people coming through these barriers, not everybody's friendly and kind, and it's quite a challenging job and you become desensitized as time goes on. So I was a bit like, okay, she was a bit abrupt, but it's fine. And then two other girls come through and the machine also beeped as well at the same time. So at this point, there was a woman in front of me, then there was me, and then there was two girls that come in behind me. And the woman searched the woman in front of me, again, quite aggressively. Like I was watching her doing it and I was like, okay, like it's not the first time I've been searched in an airport, but this woman was, she was quite aggressive in her manner. and you could see it on the face of the woman that was being searched. She was a bit like, and so I was like, right, I'm next. So I was like kind of mentally preparing myself for the way that this woman was going to search me, and she just walked away. So she searched the woman, she waved the woman through, and she just walked away. Everybody's just like standing looking at each other, and there's a young guy standing at the other side of the machine, and he looked at the three of us, and we're all just looking at each other like, where did you go? And I looked at the guy as if to say, are you going to do something? He said, I can't search you. It's only a woman that can search you. Um, she'll be back in a minute. And I was like, all right, okay. So then she was gone for quite some time. So I'm standing there and I'm still thinking my laptop's still down there. Now my bag's down there. I'm on the other side of the barrier, but I still couldn't see any of my things and could feel myself getting more agitated. And so then she comes back, and I'm standing at the front of the queue to be searched, and she waves me out the way and starts searching the woman behind me. But I still wasn't able to go through the barrier because I went to walk through thinking that I was just somehow exempt. And the boy went, no, you haven't been searched yet. And I was like, yeah, because she just waved me out the way. And she went, wait there, like that. And momentarily left my body, went into my mind, fight or flight kicked in, and I chose fight. And I turned around and I said to the guy, oh, you don't queue here? There's no queue system? And it wasn't said with unconditional love and curiosity. It was said with sarcasm and a bit of aggression, matching the women round about me. And he looked at me and he went like this, like, a bit like, I don't really know what to do. And I turned to the woman and I said, you don't queue here? No, there's no queue system because I come through the barrier first. And the two girls behind me, they were a bit like, yeah, she was first. Like, and the woman just, I don't know if she didn't understand me, didn't care, didn't want to know. She was just like she didn't even speak. She just like, kept waving her hand at me. She walked away again. She was away again for quite some time. I turned back to the boy and said, I don't understand what's happening. I've come through the barrier before these two girls. And the woman keeps walking away. Like, I'd just like to go and get my stuff. It's like, you have to wait till she comes back. And I could just feel myself getting more and more annoyed. And she came back over. She searched the other girl. So in the end, I was the last person to be searched. And I had this moment where I was like, there must be a reason for this. There must be a reason why this is happening. And she searched me and she was like, oh, it's your bra, it's setting off the alarm. And by this point I was quite annoyed and I walked away. And then I annoyed myself even further because she said to me as I walked away, thank you, like that. And I didn't catch her saying it. It wasn't that I heard her saying it and I ignored her because I didn't realise she said it to me till I had passed. And then she said it again and I still didn't catch it. This is how I knew that I wasn't present because she said thank you to me twice and it took a beat for me to hear it. And it wasn't until I was over the other side, but by this point my laptop in my hand and my bag on my back, that I was like, she just said thanks to me twice. And I was annoyed at myself for ignoring her. And I walked away and I got into the main part of the duty free and I was like, go back and apologise to her. Like she's just said thank you to you and you've ignored her. And I turned back and it's mobbed and there's people everywhere and I was like, it's okay, like just keep walking. And I'm walking along and I'm apologising to the woman in my head. I'm going, I'm sorry I ignored you when you said thank you to me. And I went and sat down in a coffee shop and I was like, all of that was to show me that I was no longer present. I wasn't present anymore. I'd been standing in the queue for so long that I'd come out of my body and gone into my head and I'd started being in my head with my thoughts and believing that the thoughts that I created in my mind were my current reality when they were not. The current reality was I was standing in a queue. Now, we've always got a choice. I had a choice while I was standing in that queue. I did have a choice to remain in my body or go into my head. When we come out of our body and go into our minds and just start believing our thoughts and just start listening to that incessant chatting in our heads, we can get trapped up there. We can get trapped in our mind. I'm standing in this airport, but really I'm 1,000 miles away having a conversation with someone who's in another country and thinking I need to say this and I need to say that, and this imaginary argument that I'm having with this person about this thing that's happening the next day. I'm no longer present. I'm no longer here. I'm no longer aligned with God. I'm no longer on the mountaintop. I'm in the valleys, and I'm in the valleys where it's dark, and the repressed energy, the repressed emotion of my childhood is swirling around everywhere. And what that repressed energy is fear, and fight or flight kicks in, and I always choose anger, so I always choose fight, and it all comes back to this low vibration, this feeling of fear. So my vibrations were being lowered as the day was going on because I was getting more hungry, more tired, more stressed. Everything was pointing to me to say slow down and be present, slow down and be present. But I couldn't hear it until I had to hear it, which was someone tapping me aggressively on the shoulder and telling me to put my stuff in the tray, and then a woman not letting me through the barrier. Separating me from my things, okay, separating me from my possessions, and agitating me to the point where I had to be like, oh, there's something's happening here. What is it? What is it that's happening? What am I being asked to look at? I'm being asked to stop, get out your head, come back into your body, look around, realize that everything's okay, you're not in any danger. If someone was to walk off with your laptop, is it really the end of the world? It's happened to me in an airport before. I've just actually realized while I'm saying this that that's the other reason why I didn't want my laptop to go off, because it actually happened to me in an airport in Spain a couple of years ago, where my laptop was stolen by someone who distracted me, and his mate stole my laptop. So that was also the other thing that would have been playing in my subconscious mind, which even as I'm telling you this story now, I didn't realize at the time that that was also a thing that was causing my agitation to rise up and rise up, because I was separated from my laptop. So that's happened to me before. I was separated from my laptop and it was stolen, and yeah, it was a bit of a pain, but I was able to replace it. And the world kept turning. And so if that had happened last week when I was in the airport, yeah, it's not fun. It's it's a bit of a pain, but the world would keep turning. But instead what was happening was I was getting more and more agitated. So the outside world round about me, God had to tell me, you're in the valleys, you're not on the mountaintop here, you're in the valleys, and you're in the pits of your subconscious where all the repressed fear and anger is, and you're creating a reality where you're in danger down there, where this woman putting you last in the queue for the searching is somehow like a terrible thing. When I mean, I wasn't going to miss my flight. I've missed plenty of flights, which is also something that was swirling back in there. But I had plenty of time. I'd got to the airport really early because I had all these extra bags. So I was like, I'm going to get there early and I'm going to have loads of time. So there was no danger. There's nothing dangerous, nothing bad was going to happen to me, save for I might not get my laptop out the box at the end of the machine because I've been separated from it for so long, and someone could have picked it up and walked away from it. But I'm still not in any danger. And it's this realization that these repressed emotions are inside of all of us, they're inside of our energetic system. They cause us to have beliefs, they cause us to create a reality where I find this thing annoying. And my friend, like we shared an apartment together, and I would say to her, "Oh, that's annoying," and she would always go, "No, it's not." Like whatever it was I was talking about, like I spilled something. "Oh, that's annoying." She would just go, "No, it's not." Just this little voice, like no matter what it was, "No, it's not." And then I started going, "Yeah, you're right, it's not annoying. It's only annoying if I decide it's annoying." It was only agitating what happened in the airport because I decided I was agitated by it. I could have also been curious about it and been like, "Oh, I wonder why this woman decided that I was going to be last through the barrier. I wonder why I was placed last in the queue. What was her system in her mind that was like, I'm going to search that girl, then I'm going to search those two girls, then I'm going to come back to that woman there. What was that?" I could have an unconditional love and curiosity for it. Instead, I went into the valleys, and I went into my repressed emotions, and I went into my stagnant energy, my energetic systems, and I met God there, and God got louder and louder and louder until such a point where I had to hear him. I had to hear what was being said. You're not being present. You're not being present enough here. You're supposed to be here in your body. You told me this morning in your journaling, "Dear God, I'm so excited to see the way this day will unfold. Keep me present in my body, keep me excited, keep me joyous, keep me calm, keep me peaceful." You asked for these things and now you're not doing it. And if you're not doing it, then I'm going to show you that you're not doing it. And I'm going to show it by agitating your system to the point where you've got to stop and look around and be like, wait a minute, what's happening here? And that's what I mean by meeting God in the valleys. You'll meet him in the shadows of your repressed emotions. You'll meet him when you feel sad. You'll meet him when you feel afraid. You'll meet him when you feel angry. And that's how you alchemize it, and that's how you transform it into the higher vibrations, the higher emotions, the higher feelings in your body, and they feel better. It feels better to be curious than it does to be angry. It feels better to have unconditional love for a person or a situation than it does to have agitation or judgment or shame or anger for it. It feels better in my system, which is why we're in this little loop where we did all these things to numb ourselves so that we could not feel those emotions, and then in adulthood, we continue to feel those emotions because we're in an energetic loop, and until we can actually sit with them and properly process them and properly let go of them, then we will always be in this same spiral of different situations, different faces, different names, but the same feelings coming up again and again and again. And we will stay in the valleys and we will meet God there, but we will never become God until we can transmute that energy, until we can transform it and alchemize it into something else. And the only way that we can alchemize it is by becoming aware of it. And if you cannot become aware of it by yourself, which a lot of us can't because we're so clever and so good at numbing ourselves, then guess what? The world will show you it round about you. The world will show you it. God is super intelligent and he will show you it. You're intelligent, your body will bring these situations towards you. You will create a situation where you have to look at those emotions, and it will look like trauma, it will look like a challenge, it will look terrible, but it's actually your all wise, all powerful body going, we're going to rid your body of this stagnant energy so that you feel lighter, so that you feel more in alignment with God, with your own God divinity within yourself, so that you remember your power, so that you remember who you are, which is the purpose of every one of these calls. I want to be able to have these discussions for 60 minutes, go down 10 million tangents that I will try desperately to bring myself back from. And somewhere along the way, something will be said that will pique your interest, that will trigger something within you, a question, a thought, an observation. You come on here and you talk to me, and I will remind you that you carry that energy within you and that you are actually God, and that if you're in the valleys, you're not in the valleys without a solution to get to the mountaintop. If you do have any questions about it, then now would be the time to put them in the Q&A. If you are in the valleys, if you met God there this week, even in small form or in big form, you want to come and talk about it, you want to delve deeper into it, you want to sift through your perception of what God in the valleys looks like, then please come on and chat with me. Put a question in the Q&A. If you've been in the valleys with God any point in the past week, couple of weeks, year, couple of years, if you can't figure out how to get to the mountaintops, if you can't figure out how to turn yourself back to the alignment with that all creative source, then here is the chance to come and ask me to help you sift through your perception of it. Someone said, did you have a good flight after the security situation? I had a lovely flight after the security situation, thank you. Something else happened on the flight that was also quite triggering for me, and I had a conversation with the mother of the baby that I had the triggering situation with, and she apologised for the triggering, and then I explained to her my theory on that and my ethos on triggers. I if you've ever been on any of my calls before or coached with me, you'll know that I lost a baby last year, a little boy, just over 3 months into my pregnancy, and I got on the flight and a couple sat next to me with a little baby boy, and my first instincts were I absolutely love babies. I love babies, I love children. So I was so happy that this baby was now sitting next to me. It was very cute. And my first feelings that come into my body were of joy. They definitely were. And I sat down, I put my earphones on, and I had them on silent just to meditate for the first. It's quite a long flight, so I just wanted to meditate for the first couple of hours. And the baby was awake. I think his mum was feeding him on take off to help with his ears popping. And after a bit, maybe about 90 minutes or so, he was sitting up on her lap, and he had little bare feet, and he put his leg on my leg and his little tiny toes, and I was looking at his toes and I just started crying. And I looked out the window because I was like, I didn't want the baby to see me crying. Like, that just shows you the thought process, because the baby was so small, I don't think he would have been able to focus on enough to see me crying anyway. And also he would have felt the sadness regardless, because as I say, they're little energetic sponges. So I looked out the window and I was crying quietly for just a few minutes. And then I let the tears come. I let my body feel the sadness, because that's definitely what I was feeling. And I just allowed myself to release the tears. And I was interested. Had unconditional love and curiosity for myself, because I was like, it's interesting to see that there's still some sadness in there, especially when it comes to like being in close proximity with babies, and especially a baby boy. And so as time went on, I watched a bit of a movie, and then I got chatting to the mum, and of course she starts asking me that what are my thoughts on manifestation, and I was like, there are no mistakes, right? I was like, I was supposed to sit next to this woman, and we were supposed to have this discussion. She was supposed to ask me these questions, and we started talking about different books that we'd read, and I gave her some recommendations for books, and we were talking about manifestation and God and being the creator of your own reality. And I told her about the baby that I had lost. And I told her that when her baby, who was called Milo, who was just the cutest little thing ever, that when he'd put his feet on my knee, on my leg, that it caused me to cry, and that I'd released a lot of emotions while that was happening. And their first instinct was to apologize. She's like, I'm really sorry that that happened, and that it triggered you in that way. And I was like, oh, I'm not sorry that it happened, and I'm not sorry that it triggered me. If he hadn't have put his feet on my leg, I would never have known that I was still carrying that sadness inside of me. So you two were supposed to sit next to me. He was supposed to put his feet on my leg. We were supposed to have these conversations. We have both manifested this situation where we're able to talk to each other. These book recommendations that I've given to you, the recommendations that you've given to me, we were both supposed to hear these words. I don't know why. I don't have all the answers to why, but I know that my body's very, very intelligent, and that it caused that baby to put his feet on my leg so that I would release those tears. That I 100% believe that. There were tears still in my body that had to be released. And my body is so wise, so intelligent, so providing of everything that I need to get into the highest alignment with God, that it orchestrated that situation where that baby sat next to me. It orchestrated everything in such amazing, intricate detail leading up to that moment, to when I started crying, and I felt better afterwards. So I did have a really good flight. I was in my body for the flight. I was present with what was going on. That little baby made sure I was present. I wasn't going to be sitting in my head having conversations and thoughts and scenarios about things that were not present in front of me, when I had this cute little boy to smile at and to look at, and to see the wonder in his eyes throughout the flight. So that was a situation where my body brought joy to also teach me something about myself, because my overriding feeling was emotion was joy, having been so blessed to sit next to that beautiful little baby and his lovely mum and dad, and hear about their lives and their holiday that they'd been on, and everything about their lives in the past couple of years leading up to the birth of their baby boy. And I was supposed to be sitting there, and my body orchestrated it, and my body created that reality so that I could release those emotions, but also so that I could feel the joy of being around that beautiful little baby. So we can create situations that make us feel the painful emotions, the emotions that we don't like to feel, and we can alchemize from there. And then we also create situations where we can experience really, really joyful emotions, really beautiful emotions, really high vibe emotions, happiness, joy, love, and we can also learn from there. And that's what happened. So while I had the security situation at the start of the airport day out, I did also then have a very, very lovely flight with a lovely little baby. And he cried a little bit on the flight, but not a lot. And he was very well behaved and he was very cute and he smiled at me a lot throughout and had a really good time. So yes, I did have a good flight. So a lot of people have said that they can relate to everything that I've said today and that they are in the valleys with God and learning a lot about themselves while they're in there. And we don't have any questions, so I'm going to wrap up because I have another call at past, so I'll be able to wrap up a bit earlier today and then prepare myself for that. So today's discussion has been about what meeting God in the valleys, okay? And it's something that I'm going to touch about on more as the weeks go forward. And one of the things that someone said to me recently, I'm not sure if might have said this on last week's call, is that I always talk about the same thing. The same message will come up in every single call. We're just going to hear different ways to portray the message. That's what the themes are every week. But every week I talk about the same thing. Everybody that comes on here is going to be told the same thing, reminded the same thing, and shown the same thing through their interactions with me. You are God. The call is called Give It to God. When I say that, I mean give it to the highest version of yourself, your higher mind, your energy within yourself, your soul, your highest levels of consciousness, the God that you carry within you. You are God. You are the creator of your own reality. If you look around your reality and you don't like anything that you see, then that's amazing because you now know that you're the creator of that reality and you can create something different. And you have the solutions to any problems that you are going through at the moment. Problems don't arise without a solution alongside them. The solution will come from the higher energies, from the higher mind, from the amalgamation of every single person on this planet's energy. That's the energy that creates God. The whole is God. Then we've got the access to the greatest minds that are on the planet at the moment, the greatest minds that ever lived, and the greatest minds that will ever live, because all of creation is done and we've got access to all of that. There's a big, huge pool of creation that we can access at any time. And how do we access that? By getting in alignment with the creative operative power that created that pool, and that is God. And the message, especially here in the beginning, I said to my friend, I really want to look back on these videos in a year or 2 years' time and be like, oh my God, look at how nervous I was and look at how many tangents I went down and tried to pull myself back up and maybe didn't explain things deep enough or wide enough. And it's okay because this is where I'm learning. But the message is always the same. The message will always be the same. You are God. You are God. You have everything you need within you to create the life of your dreams. If you hear these words and they make you feel agitated or annoyed or scared or sad, then come on and ask questions because I will help you sift through all of those stagnant energies, all those stagnant emotions, and I will help you have a clearer perception of it. And that perception will be your alignment with the God that you carry within yourself. I'm not here to give you the God that I carry within myself. I'm not here to tell you to see the world in the same way that I see it. I'm here to tell you that you've got a unique, amazing, incredible, wonderful, God-given way of seeing the world. And if you don't feel good in your feelings, your emotional, your energetic system, or your barometer to tell you if you're in alignment with that amazing energy or not, if you don't feel good about anything in your life, then it's because you're not in alignment with the energy that you carry within yourself. Something's got in the way. And that something that's got in the way is basically just stagnant energy, it's stagnant emotions. It's there to be moved. We can pour it out, we can empty it out, we can process it, we can let it go. And I'm here to help you do that. And I'm here to remind you and remind every single person that will ever sit in front of me, you are God and you are capable of absolutely anything that's been placed in your heart. And I'm excited for you. I want everybody to walk their glorious path. I want everybody to be in alignment with the highest version of themselves. I want everybody to feel joy and feel fun and feel happiness. And it's there, it's right there for you to access it. We just have to sift through your perception of your current reality and find the solution that will enable you to change your current reality. And no problem ever arises without a solution. You are God. When I say give it to God, I mean give it to the highest version of yourself. If that highest version of yourself is telling you to come on here next week and ask a question in the Q&A, but you're feeling a bit shy and you haven't done it yet, then that tapping's going to get louder as the weeks go on, and you will come on and chat with me, and I'm looking forward to it. Have a great week, and I'll see you all next Wednesday.